Okay. Um, Somebody's waiting to get in.
Have you heard anything from Steve lately?
No, I haven't. And somebody's waiting to get in. Somebody's joining in, but I don't know who it is. It might be Brendan. Um, hmm. Says he's in the waiting room. Joining. Hmm. I don't know. Um, hmm. I don't know. I'm clicking this thing for them to get in, but I don't see. Um, hmm. Okay, and here's Beth. Oh, there's Brendan. Okay, okay, okay. So this, hmm, it says joining, but I don't see him. Okay, all right. Oh, hey, there you are. Okay. Um, okay. I don't know who this other person is. Um, okay. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Um, let's see. We are in still in Revelation 1, but in going through Revelation, as we go verse by verse, we're covering a lot of territory in the prophetic books and also other parts of Revelation as well. Um, last I think it was last week when we talked about Revelation 13, but it also encompassed, some of the other prophetic books. And also, um, in talking about the uh, concept of aliens that, um, that is really kind of debunked. But at any rate, um, unless we lost Brendan, he'll probably come back. But okay, so we're going to do verses 1 through 10. If you have a question about any of the other, anything else, if you want to put something in the chat, you can put something in the chat. Um, and or you could just comment either way. And so we're gonna we're gonna start in Revelation chapter 9. Okay, the past couple weeks, our lesson, like I said, was on concerns about Revelation 13, and we'll get into that even more because there's more to it than that. We'll get into that, um, even more as we get into that actual chapter. It's going to take us a while, but at any rate, still, if you have any questions about any part of Revelation or any of the prophetic books, just let me know. And you can send it to me, either text me, email me, um, or put it in the chat, or you can just verbalize it. Okay. Um, so anyway, we'll look into that. We also talked a little bit about what is commonly referred to as the rapture. And today we're going to go back to where we left off prior to those topics, and we're going to go to Revelation um, chapter 1, verse 9. And I talked about how John the Baptist, not John the Baptist, um, John the disciple, was on the Isle of Patmos, and Patmos was really kind of a rock island, and he was there because he refused to stop telling people about Yeshua. I mean, he was adamant about it, and he just kept going. He was testifying to people about the Messiah, and he was the last of the disciples, of the original 12 disciples. There were many more, but of the original 12, he was the last one to live, and this was around 90 AD. Anyway, um, this was after the scattering. I'm going to talk a little bit about the scattering that occurred or actually began in 70 AD. And the scattering was foretold. And actually, before I do that, let me grab, hold on, um, my Bible so I can read that scripture in Revelation 1, verse 9. And we're going to also cover verse 10 if time allows. And it says, I, John, who also uh, am your brother and companion in tribulation and in the kingdom and patience of Yeshua Messiah, was in the isle that is called Patmos for the word of Elohim and for the testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach. I was in the spirit on Yahweh's day, and I heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet. So we'll talk about those things, but first I'm going to talk about the scattering. And um, the scattering was foretold, uh, and the destruction of Jerusalem was foretold as well. And those things happened because of idolatry, and the people turning away from the Most High. And so the uh, it was a result of breaking the commandments. And so I'm going to read the 10 commandments, and you'll be able to see how even today people are breaking these commandments. The first one, thou shalt have no other God before me. The second one, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or bow down to them or serve them. We see that happening all the time. People have a lot of gods. They don't necessarily, if you say to somebody your job is your God or money is your God, or that person that you really like is your God, they may not get it. They may not agree with it. They may not understand it, because most people know about the Most High God, but they but when they are fixated, for example, on making a lot of money, that's all they think about is money, money, money. And they're willing to do anything to get it, even if it means that they're going to try to deceive people, or they're going to lie and cheat and steal even, that they are fixated on this money, where that money becomes their God. And the same with people's jobs. When you put your job before everybody else, then that's a problem, because our first order of ministry is going to be with our family, and then go beyond that, friends, and beyond that as well. And so when um, we don't represent the Most High, at home, then that could be a problem. We have to represent Him everywhere we go, fully, completely in life. And so, but we can't have anything um, that's going to be in front of Him. Now, also um, I have mentioned the idols, um, and people have. Let's see. Well, I said graven image. Okay. There are some. We know that the Messiah actually was not crucified on a cross like is typically presented. That came about through Constantine, but he was on the stake, this big wooden, um, uh, heavy stake. Or some people, like Peter, and I think it was somebody else, might have been James, I don't remember, said the tree, that he was crucified on a tree. And so, um, when you look at that, there Constantine made a change, and he changed it to a cross. And if you look at a lot of those crosses, they will have an image of Yeshua carved on it as well. And those are the kind of things that we are not supposed to have. And we're not supposed to make those graven images. Okay, so anyway, in the third one, thou shalt not take the name of Yahweh in vain. And that goes two ways, um, people using his name with a curse word, um, but also when people call his name without actually calling on him. And so, for example, we may hear somebody say, um, well, they use the term Lord in all caps to mean Yahweh, and they may say, "Oh Lord." Some people will just actually they will say Jesus Christ, and not have a meaning behind it. And even though his name is Yeshua, Christ is not his last name, and neither is Hamashiach his last name. But, some people will say those things. That's using his name in vain, um, in the way that people are referring to the Most High. People are referring to the Son of the Most High. And so, um, that is just an example of that, in addition to, using it with the, foul language. All right. So then he goes on and he says, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. And then he goes into these others: honor thy father and thy mother. The first four. Let's see. I think it's the first four. These are specific to the Most High. And then he goes into these others: honor thy mother and thy father. And then he goes into the sixth one: thou shalt not kill. And the seventh: thou shalt not commit adultery. And this can happen physically, emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually. And when we talk about adultery spiritually, we're talking about when um, people who claim to um, believe and follow the Most High, but at the same time, they say that, but they really are um, doing other things that are contrary to Him. Like I mentioned, the idol worship. They may, and everybody has to have income, some type of income. I mean, that's just how you know, that's how we live. We have to pay for different things, and so that requires money for the most part. But um, like I said, when it becomes a person's God, where it gets all their attention, and um, and it becomes first place, as opposed to taking the back seat and trusting the Most High, then that that would be like adultery, because we are the bride. We are the bride, and to go after other things would be adultery. I hope I made that where you can understand it. If not, let me know. Okay. So then he goes on, and when I mentioned thou shalt not kill, 1 John 3:15 talks about Another way of killing people, not necessarily with a knife or with a gun, but with hate. It says, "Whosoever hateth his brother is a murderer." So hating someone um, makes a person a murderer. And we can dislike people. We can dislike, well, mostly it's not the person itself, but it's their ways, it's their mannerisms, their, the things that they do that really kind of, irritate us and make us not like um, those things. And so, but when it comes to hate, to where we actually hate a person, that right there, um, that is considered murder. Um, then he goes on, "Thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor." Don't be lying on people, is what he was saying. And a lot of people, um, they make light of lies. But when you look at um, was the seven things that are abomination that the Most High can't stand, those seven habits, those seven things, lying, the first thing is a lying tongue. And so, that's another problem. Bearing false witness against somebody, lying on somebody, that's one of the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not covet. That covet is, and it says, don't covet your neighbor's house, your neighbor's wife, your neighbor's manservant, your neighbor's, and in other words, um, don't covet things. Don't covet those things that belong to somebody else. You know, you could sit there and you could look at somebody, for example, look at their house or their car or whatever, and you could say, wow, that is really nice. I wish I had something like that. And then maybe even work for something like that. But with coveting, you don't even want them to have it. You're focused on what they have, and um, you want what they have, not one like they have, but you want what they have. Okay, so coveting, that's a big one. So those are the 10. And so you could see that when you look at mankind even today and even back then, that those commandments were broken. And as a result of that, consequences have to come about. And so, I was talking about the scattering and the destruction that came, this destruction that came to Jerusalem and to the people uh, um, as a result of breaking those commandments. Um, let's see, Jeremiah 7:23 says, "But this thing I commanded them, saying, Obey my voice, and I will be your Elohim, and ye shall be my people, and walk ye in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well with you. And they hearkened not, nor inclined their ear, but walked in the counsels and in the imagination," and that word imagination is also stubbornness, "of their evil heart, and went backwards and not forwards." So see, this is a problem. If we obey, then you know, then he said it may be well with you. We can trust him. Oh, and then we continue to read in verse 34 of that same chapter. It says, "Then I will cause to cease from the cities of Judah and from the streets of Jerusalem the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness and the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, for the land shall be desolate." So he's telling them that it's all going to be destroyed. And then in Matthew 23, verses 37 through 39, it says, "O Jerusalem," and this is Yeshua talking, "as O Jerusalem, Thou that killeth the prophet, and stoneth them which are sent to thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her children under her wings, but ye would not. Behold, your house is left to you desolate. For I say unto you, you shall not see me hence until ye say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of Yahweh. And that's again in Matthew 23, verses 37 and 38. And then we went through Matthew 24, you know, that went into what happens. But there's a lot of other scriptures that talks about the scattering, that talks about the desolation that's going to appear, that's going to happen to Jerusalem and the Israelites. And in Jeremiah 9:16, he said, I will scatter them among the Gentiles. And that's what happened. Even Ezekiel talks about it, in Isaiah and several others. And Ezekiel 12, verses 15 through 16 says, um, let's see, when I scatter them among the nations and disperse them throughout their countries. He's talking about what's going to happen when he scatters them, because he is going to scatter. And that again, that's what happened. Okay, but here's the thing: even though he scattered um, his people all over the earth, I mean, all the different countries and everything, um, he will not forget his covenant that he has. Um, Jeremiah 23, 5 through 8 says, Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. And in his days Judah will be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called Yahweh Tiskanu, which means Yahweh our righteousness. And he goes on and says, Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that they shall no more say, Yahweh liveth, who brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But Yahweh liveth, but they will say, Yahweh liveth, that brought up and led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country and from all countries whithersoever I have driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. And so, he's telling them that time is going to come when he's going to bring everybody back to all the people, all the Israelites back to their own land. And when I was talking a few weeks ago about the second Exodus, this is what I was referring to, him bringing people back. Now, um, in verse in Jeremiah 33 verses 14 through 16, and I know I'm going through this kind of fast, uh, but again, if you have a question, I do want to be able to answer questions. um, Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will perform that good thing which I have promised to the house of Israel and to the house of Judah. In those days and at that time, I will cause the branch of righteousness, Yahweh Tiskanu, to grow up unto David, and he shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. And in those days shall Judah be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell safely. And this is the name wherewith she shall be called. I don't know why I put she in there. I was going to try to find that out. But he goes on and says the name will be called Yahweh our righteousness. But note, okay, take a look. It talks about dwelling in safety. Okay, this right here is a clue to the occupants of the place they call Israel. It's a clue that are for the people that have occupied that land since 1948. And so I'm going to tell you that Since 1948, they have not dwelled in safety, but have been um, in war from 1948 to 1949, 1956, 1967, 1973, 1982, 2006, and then 2023 to the present time. And so I'll talk more about this in chapter 2 as well, because the clue to the people, the actual Israelites, being in the land is that they will dwell in safety. And so, anyway, after the scattering, though, let me get back to that. After the scattering, uh, then Rome really expanded, and Domitian, Domitian, was ruling Rome, and anything and everything that concerned Yeshua, or any other um, person to worship, he uh, dealt with harshly. But for some reason, which I don't know why, but for some reason, he did not kill John. Instead, he sent him to Patmos. And then after a certain number of years, I think somebody else came in and took over, and he was able to leave Patmos and to live out his life. And he is the only one that actually died of natural causes. Um, and so the others were martyred. But okay, so anyway, so John continued to tell people about Yeshua. He continued to testify. I had told you before, he had Polycarp. He had taught Polycarp. Polycarp was one that also wrote those letters out, and they had runners, people to go to all these different places. But so John had a tremendous impact on spreading the gospel. Um, but John also said that he was their brother and companion in tribulation and in the kingdom and patience, with patience means endurance, of Yeshua HaMashiach. So he was waiting for Yeshua to make his return. And we got about 10 minutes. Okay. Um, all right. So anyway, to make his return. But he, all along, he never stopped until the day he died. He never stopped spreading the gospel. In Revelation 1:10, the next verse, he's saying, I was in the spirit, the Ruach, on Yahweh's day, and heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet. And so um, when he was saying he was in, uh, some scriptures say the Lord's day, and that is the only place in the whole Bible where it says the Lord's day. And it is actually the day of Yahweh, or the day of the Lord. But, and so, uh, but notice too, he was in the spirit. He was in the Ruach, and he was completely filled, and he was at a point where he was able to receive that communication um, directly from the Most High, to be able to see those visions. And also, I want to say too, being this is also uh, what puts people in the position of being prophetic, is being filled with the Spirit, and and also the other gifts. Um, let's see. He was um, he was moved forward spiritually to hear about the day of Yahweh, and so um, and the voice. If you remember, even back in the time of Exodus, and Moses was on the mountain, and the people were down on the ground, and they were talking about how loud, um, the everything was, the thunders, the lightnings, and all of that. And so, um, and it made them afraid, and the smoke and everything that was going to make them afraid. But, um, you know, when we hear from the Most High, it could go either way. It could be loud like a trumpet, or and it mentioned the trumpet because of the reverberation, how powerful his voice is, and so in when it talks about the the uh, his voice, it could either be loud or it could be really, like the scripture says, a wee small voice. It could be very soft, and we have to be very still and quiet and receptive to hear what he's saying to us. But even today, he is speaking to all of us. He speaks to us in our heart. He speaks to us through the word. I mean, in so many different ways, he's still speaking. Comments?
Agree. Yeah.
Oh,
When I've been in Bible studies or services, and then the next couple of days, things come about that have been said the day before, the couple of days before, and that has to be a God thing.
oh yeah.
All that about.
Yes, yes.
Just there with you all the time.
Right. All the time.
And it's just a confirmation that he's still there and he's still listening. He's still paying attention to us.
Yep. And he's still answering.
Yeah, very much so.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Anybody else? Thank you, Brenda.
If I could just give a praise report, I'm very confident that the Most High God, the Yahweh Elohim. He does see our tears, he hears our cries, and he's working. I've been in a horrible situation for 2 years.
Yeah.
But I have not tried to fight. I've just been praying, letting the Lord fight that battle for me.
Yes.
And he's a great fighter. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Keep praying, family, if you would.
Yes, I will. He never lost a battle.
And Pastor Rogers, my phone is back on.
Yay! Okay, hallelujah. All right. Okay, any other questions? Comments? All right. Okay, well, we're back on track as far as having our service. And so hopefully I'll see you all on Saturday. And
Get 1 or 2.
2, yeah, at 2, yeah. And for Bible study, and then 3:30 for the service. And so, let me see. We got 4 minutes. Wow, I didn't think I was going to get finished. I was trying to hurry and rush and read all of that. And
Now, for the next 2 weeks, I may not be there on Saturday.